Starting.
Hi everyone, welcome to this SecHPC Education Chapter webinar on Gutenberg. We have Alistair Wilson with us, who is an RSc working at the University of Oxford, and he'll be talking about the Gutenberg platform. Off you go.
Hi, thank you for the introduction and for asking me to come talk to you. I hope it'll be useful to some of you. I'm disappointed to hear Georgia's ill because I wanted to hear her feedback as well on because they'd set up their own deployment of this, and so I wanted to hear how that went and if they found it useful and stuff like that. But alas, can't be helped. So I mostly wrote these slides for an event last year. They're probably not the perfect. I did try and edit them slightly. They're probably not the perfect thing, so I'm probably going to swap to the actual website at some point. And it is after all a web application, and so show off the web app. And the slides are there as a fallback for when I inevitably miss something I thought would be useful to talk about. The background for Gutenberg is that sort of the idea, what it is, a training platform. It has, in combination with training material, it also has the sort of dynamic front end that has all the tools you need to run training with as well. And so they come, part and parcel. There's no sort of idea that you'd have, I don't know, a spreadsheet or something like that to keep track of your participants, or a Word document or something. Instead, you use the same website for everything. Existing solutions sort of have material and publishing like tightly integrated. So for example, if you're, like carpentries or something like that, you'd have like a Jekyll build process that takes your source files and compiles them into a website and builds that website, and then you've got a static website. And in that case, there's no sort of like interaction between students and their instructors on the website. That interaction is purely down to if you're hosting in-person events like Zoom calls or whatever. And and there's no, as well as material is generally there as a resource for students to, to visit and to work through, in much the way like a book, but hosted online. And then as well as, this is a bit of a smaller criticism of existing solutions, is that there's no sort of way to track attributations. Was one of the other things that was identified as a problem. So what Gutenberg is designed to do is that we separate the material we're teaching separate from rendering in a completely portable format, which is Markdown. Spoilers. And that there's some kind of interactivity with students to instructors, with students to students as well. There's student-to-student interaction on Gutenberg that we can track course enrollment, tracking. You can set your enrollment keys and stuff like that. You can you can see what students have completed, what problems, where they are. You can see their issues and stuff like that, all on a single platform. And as well as we're able to take our material from a bunch of different sources, a bunch of different open access sources, and repurpose it, but also maintain, this tree of attributions. It was spawned with the University HPC project, which had Edinburgh, Oxford, Southampton, Imperial College, and the British Computer Society, but that expired at the beginning of 2025, and we're continuing developments funded by this project called Drift, which is DRI focused training for research facilitators and teams, which has, I should have put the collaborators on here, but I believe it's Oxford, Edinburgh, and Imperial. And that's sort of, is that right, Veronica? Yeah. Okay. And so that's the kind of very similar work, but slightly different. It's kind of down more to sort of DRI offerings and training trainers and career development and stuff like that, rather than necessarily University HPC, which is a lot of that was down to the development of the material itself, not just the delivery of it. The very brief summary, because I'm not really sure how many people would care about this, but how Gutenberg is built is it's a React Next.js website. So it's a very modern web stack. So the Next.js is both the front and the back end. So the client side code and the back end API routes, etc., are both Next.js. And we perform, like, all the dynamic data is stored on a Postgres database. So we perform CRUD on that when if a user wants to register. We're doing that via CRUD onto a Postgres database. The thing, do I have a cursor visible? It's probably very small, but the thing that's a bit different to standard websites is that we also have static material in the cloud that is pooled at build time, and then as well on a cron job as well. That if you're running Gutenberg, you also launch cron jobs that every midnight, I think it is, it checks for updates to the teaching material. And if those updates has happened, it pulls new content, and then dynamically the site will rebuild. If someone accesses a page, say they want to see a certain section, and that content has been updated, the server will generate a new page for them. There's a bit of a lag, like as in you have to go to that midnight for the content to be pulled, and then also there's a 1 hour roughly delay on when Nix will regenerate the server side generated page. So if you're interested in exploring some of the links, most of the stuff is Googleable, because I know presenting links as in a talk is a problem. But train.rse.ox.act.uc is our deployment of it. So that's where we run our teaching from. All the kind of idea we know Gutenberg as well, the deployments as well can share. We'll get to that in a second, but we'll share the material, and that material that we use is in this repo here. This you can just search course material University HPC. It's a public accessible repo. Gutenberg's GitHub as well, you can find by just searching Oxford RSE Gutenberg. Very easy to find. And linked from that as well is the Gutenberg docs. So the docs that describe how Gutenberg's designed, how to build it, how to configure it, how to set up your environment, etc., how to develop for it. So how to contribute back, how to develop, and as well as something there's how to write course material is in this University HPC repo. Is long overdue that it needs to get moved into the Gutenberg docs. So that should be there sometime very soon. Is if you're interested in seeing how we render Markdown, then all the instructions should be inside the Gutenberg docs, which are at blog.docs.uk/Gutenberg. But again, that's just linked from the Gutenberg GitHub, so you can find that very easily. So I was going to give you guys a quick walkthrough. And this is, again, the same walkthrough that I gave at RSECon last year, so apologies if you were there. I know you were there. The content will be slightly different, but the idea is, in principle, is the same, which is how Gutenberg can help you if you're a content creator, and what I mean is someone who's writing course material. How it can help you if you're, like, how you would use it if you're a student. So from the point of view, if you want to host a course on Gutenberg, then, thank you for the links. So if you want to host a course, then what would the students be doing? Like how does it look like from a point of view of someone who's on your course? And for course organizers, I kind of split in there is this idea is this organizing courses on an existing deployment, but there's also deploying it yourself. So we'll have a look at all of that in a minute. I'll do the slides for this because this is a bit weird, and then I'll go to the website for the other sections. So for the content creators, we might get a little bit lost in the weeds here, but the idea is that what a content creator wants to be able to do is design a course. Like what we want to be able to support is they can design a course. They can include anything they think you would be able to put in a course. Like if you want to put a YouTube video in there or some slides in there or whatever, you can. If you want to put images in there, videos in there, you can. But on top of that, we include embedded. We call them challenges, and effectively they're problems that you, if you want to test students along the way. So you're writing this thing about creating a GitHub project, and you want to say, hey, how would you do this or whatever? Then you embed a challenge, and so that they're done in custom callouts in Markdown, as well as you maybe want to define some metadata around how your course depends on other courses, who your course is attributed to, etc. And you define that in the front matters, and it's in some YAML in the front matters, and we'll see that in a second. But the idea, the driving principle is that these courses are self-contained in Markdown, and they can be not only reused across independent redeployments, but they can be cut and pasted into independent deployments. Like you can define 6 different source repositories for the material and pull stuff from all of it, and it will all come together on the one Gutenberg deployment. So that's the kind of idea here. And so yeah, it's just Markdown. It's just Markdown. You write Markdown. It's rendered on the website as Markdown. Now it's rendered. It's rendered with a node package called React Markdown, which is doing something from Markdown to through Rehype and then through Remark. But on top of that as well, all this, and this is the what I should really have led with is the driving principle here is that we're in complete control of the entire pipeline as well. Like we're talking about these external node package here, but we can define what exactly we want a markdown element to appear as. If we want to have every list instead of saying, every title instead of saying create a GitHub project, we want to just replace that with the word title, then we have complete control to do that. And that's the case throughout the entire ecosystem, is that by in control of the rendering of the markdown, and the markdown and all the dynamic stuff means that it's given us so much ability to there's never a case where we're like, oh, I wish we could do this. Like if you were using Moodle to run these courses and you were like, oh, I wish we could do this, but we can't because we've got limitations of the systems. We've got absolutely no limitations of the systems here. And so one of the examples where that's come out is that almost every element, so a li element, if you're familiar with HTML, like a li element, ul element, a link element, code block is one of the components in React Markdown. All of these stuff has been overwritten by our own custom versions of them because we need flexibility. And everything you'd expect to work in a system like this, similar to like how you'd expect it to work in carpentries or whatever, works. You've got syntax highlighting in your code blocks. These stuff's copyable. You've got math rendering that works flawlessly, because they're just using existing solutions. You've got, you can embed multimedia, etc. So all that just works. These are challenges. They have very simple. Sorry, my cursor is practically invisible on this, but you've got a custom callout for challenge and a custom callout for solution, and that's how it renders on the site. These are accordions. The challenge isn't, but the solution is an accordion, so you can hide them. What's cool about this is when you submit these, which we'll get to when we look at it from the point of view of a student. When you submit these as well, like there's cool stuff happening with them. You can track, like instructors can see like in a chart what challenges students have completed and what ones they haven't. We also, just for some visual flair, there's some more custom directives in terms of callouts, and these are just ripped off from GitHub Markdown, shamelessly ripped off from GitHub Markdown, but integrated, done ourselves, and so that just lets you, if you could do it in GitHub Markdown, then you can also do it in this, but with a slightly different syntax, just to keep it consistent with the Markdown callout directive kind of idea. The directive idea. So slightly different syntax. When you organize your courses, and this is something I wish that we were more flexible on, but at this point it might be too late, it's a 3-tier hierarchy. And we have to be beholden to that, unfortunately. Now, every page on Gutenberg is rendered as Markdown, so you can put stuff in any of these levels of hierarchy. You can put stuff in, like as in anything you could put in on a page, you can put in anywhere, including in like descriptions of events and stuff like that. So if you want to put in like a code block to say, hey, if you want to get set up for this event, then run these things, then you can just put in a bash code block in the description. And it comes out looking the same as it would anywhere else, because we're always passing these things through a content, or we call it a content, React component content, which renders it as Markdown. So the 3-tier, this is the base tier, and on the base tier you can see all the themes. So that's the 0th tier, I guess it is. And then the first tier is a theme, and theme is sort of ID, so the tiers are theme course section, and the themes are kind of like overarching, where in learning does this fit in. And so, for example, software architecture design is one of our themes, cloud computing, software project management, HPC is one of our themes. And in themes you find courses, and courses are sort of like courses is something that's going to get a little bit confusing later, because courses, all these things have been renamed in a PR that I'm working on right now for Gutenberg version 2.0. But they're just internal names anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the idea is that courses are a collection of less, like they're identical to what carpentries would call courses. Sorry, I'm always comparing to carpentry, so apologies for that. But they're the same thing they'd call like a selection of lessons to make up a course. In our case, it's the same thing. A collection of sections makes up a course. And the idea is that if you at the end of the course on procedural programming, if you follow through all these sections, so these are sections. So this is the course page, as it were. and these are the sections that make up this course. And you can do it like this. You can have any number of these tracks that you want within the same course. So you don't have to do procedural programming C++ course and procedural programming Python course. You don't have to separate them at that level. And so you end up with, if you've got 6 different languages, you end up with 6 different courses. You can have one course, but you can define custom tracks, and that's again done in the metadata in that front matters YAML I mentioned. And so these come out as these sort of list components. And as well as, this is an example at the bottom here. This is the markdown everywhere. This is markdown that's being rendered on the course page. And lastly, the section page. So if you go to one of these sections, this is one on procedural programming, and then containers in Python in particular in this one. And again, this is how that renders you at the table, like table of contents. Like again, this is very familiar to anyone that's used any website like this. Like, it's the same as every other website that does this. We've got table of contents, we've got learning outcomes and stuff like that, and these are generated again from the front matters YAML, and we've got rendered markdown. So that's what they look like. A lot of this stuff, I've mentioned this, and this is very dry. So I'll go fast through it, and if you're curious about this, then just ask a question, because this is my least favorite part of the material, the kind of slides I put together here, which is that we have this YAML that appears at the top of every markdown file, and it defines the stuff that we need to know, that Gutenberg needs to know in order to present this correctly. Now, most of it is optional, but your stuff comes out bad if you don't have it. So attributions are optional, obviously. You don't have to have one. And you can have as many as you like as well. If the stuff's been pieced together from lots of different sources, you can give them all credit. And you could say in the text of the citation exactly what parts came from where or whatever. And that's fine. Learning outcomes as well is completely optional. And tags is completely optional. I think the only thing you need on is the name. I think is the only thing you need, which produces the title. The name on different pages you might also need ID. I'm not entirely sure actually. And we make great use of this. In particular, this depends on, which is an array, so you can have as many entries as you want here. These follow the same structure as theme course section. So in this case, they're saying this page on containers in C++, I guess it is. You can see the tag is C++. Depends on this previous section. Software architecture and design is the theme, procedural programming is the course, and variable CPP is the section. And this could be, though, it could depend on a course, it could depend on a theme, it could depend on another entire course. Like you could just point to anywhere in the entire tree of material, you can point in the depends on array, which is going to come in to produce both my most and least favorite page on Gutenberg. It's all going to come together in that. Yeah, so the benefit here is that, but because all this is just held in the front match of the YAML, there's no, when you add a course, there's no finding all the places that link to the course and adding it there. There's no adding it to the table of contents. There's no adding it to some index page. There's no going to another course and saying, I need to link to this course. It all happens automatically through this. So if you're editing the course on procedural programming, the only files you need to touch are those in procedural programming. So it makes it stops you developing over time faults in your stuff because someone forgets to do something 6 years ago, and as a result, forevermore there's going to be that hole in the system where something isn't linked to. So that's the benefit of being done there. And likewise, if you use multiple different material repos, it will all just coalesce nicely into one rendered thing. With the unfortunate limitation that you can't depend on something in repo B that's in repo A, which is a sad limitation, sadly. Attributions, this is how they appear. They're very self-explanatory. You add some text, a URL link, an image, and the license. The license is there's a list of allowed ones, and that'll automatically give you the CC, the logos. But it's not very exciting. You can see this page here on analyzing and visualizing data using libraries has come from a carpentries course. So learning outcomes are not used enough. They're not something, but they're something we're wanting to use more of, and I'll get onto that at the end about the most exciting part of this is that so they're not used enough. But learning outcomes, again, just like everything else, every level of our stuff can have this stuff inserted. So in this case, this is a course on collaboration on GitHub, and it's got learning outcomes. But also if you went to like issue management, that would also have learning outcomes. So they can be inserted at any level of the markdown. The dependencies, these generate automatically from these depends on arrays. So you can see on this page, it depends, if you want to do this page, I don't even know what this page is, but if you want to do this page, you probably want to understand how to use an IDE, and you probably want to understand how to use procedural programming. And so you can see automatically on this page, and these are dynamically generated by the server. They're not baked into these pages, which makes life a lot easier, because again, it means you don't have to worry about this when you're writing the material. It's just that when the server does the server-side generation, which again we can talk about if you're interested in, but I don't think anyone's interested in it. But the server's generating these HTML elements, and they're replaced. If the depends on array changes, they'll be replaced by new ones without you having to redeploy or rebuild or anything. So in general, within a course, you will have like forwards and backwards links, and the backwards links are done, the forwards links are done purely brute force by finding every page that refers to this page as a dependency, which is fantastic that it's just as easy as that. Whereas the backwards ones, so again, like you don't have to say something is going, the next step, you don't have to say here are the next steps manually. That just comes about from someone saying here's the previous step. Then there's automatically a one-to-one relationship there. So these are how they appear to users. Is that both you've got these I don't know what you call them, pinky purple colors, are stuff out with your current events, and that's so that stuff depends on. But also this darker purple is stuff within your event. So we'll get to events in a second, and we'll understand that better. But there's different types of previous and next buttons. And through this whole just this binary, this depends on that relationship, a whole tree of dependencies is built up, like just naturally built up in the code, and we'll revisit that in a minute. This is the other thing you need, is on a course you need to define what files are in this course, and that's how you define the multiple tracks, is by, instead of doing a list, you do a list of lists, and that's the only thing you have to do to get this to work. Name and ID. Fine. We have CI tools that make it easier. So if you go to the course materials repo, which Veronica was nice enough to link, then you can see that some of the stuff that you think is a bit weird is actually, we've got safety mechanisms in check. Markdown is linted, that's fairly standard, but there's a custom action for this front matters to make sure that front matters it sort of fits the schema and is not broken, because that can be quite hard to catch. There's also if you do Python, and it's only for Python, because unfortunately this is so much harder to C++, and that's generally the two languages we teach on. Although we do have some courses on R, and in our boiler room, or what we call it, like cooking, cook our kitchen being cooked. Is that when you put a Markdown file, and I think it's a cool thing that I don't think anyone else has done before. But we stitch all the Python code blocks in your course together, and then we lint them as if they were a Python file. And so you're able to avoid. So we're able to run CI on your Markdown, and we unfortunately don't have assert statements. We just lint it with like a Flake 8 or whatever, and we don't have the ability to. Well, we do probably have the ability, but like to check, it'd be cool if we could match output blocks to input blocks and make sure that matches, but we don't do that. We've got a link checker, but that runs on Gutenberg rather than on the Universe HPC, because it turns out very obviously that you need the built website in order to check links. You can't just check links from a piece of text. So I'll go to the website for a bit, and this is what the website looks like if you go to train.rscdocs.org, and you can sign in. It's by default, if you deploy it yourself, the only option you'll have is sign in via GitHub. That's as easy as that is. But in addition, we have the ability to sign in by any OAuth provider, and again, it's just done via YAML configuration. If you want to add an OAuth provider, YAML configuration, including this, which is the glorious thing that was like 19 months or 20 months or something like that in the making, was getting Oxford to set up SSO for us. So you can now sign in via your single sign-on Microsoft Azure, and it was because they kept changing their They were like, oh, you need to do it via. I had this middleware set up. I had a server set up that all it did was convert OIDC requests to SAML requests, and then the SAML return to OIDC tokens, and as this middleware. And to get that working was so much work, and the Oxford never really did their half of it, and so it never worked properly. And then it turned out they then said, okay, we're going to use Azure Active Directory, and they set that up for us, like gave me the secrets, and within an hour the website was redeployed using it. So it shows how much easier it was. But so if you're using Azure Active Directory, that's already in there. But likewise, if you want to set it up with Twitter, it is changing 2 lines of YAML, adding 2 lines of YAML. If you want to log in with Twitter, if you want to log in with Gmail, do whatever you want. But GitHub makes a lot of sense because you're going to need GitHub to do, or you're going to need a like an online Git repository to do some of the stuff. So it makes a lot of sense to encourage. If you don't have a GitHub, then why not? So a lot of this stuff's configurable in terms of like logos and titles, and this thing here is all configurable in configuration YAML. What students can do then, I'm going to forget what it was I said in my slides that I was going to show off, but the idea is that the main thing is these events. I'll see if I can find one that I'm enrolled on. So here we go. So this is a fake event that I set up for RSECon last year, so people could just enroll, and so I can give you the enrollment key for this if you want to play around. Oh, not that one. Don't use that one. So that's the enrollment key on event 65 if you want to have a play around and look at what a real event looks like. Don't worry, that other key that I flashed away doesn't actually give you rights to do anything on the website other than see other students on a course. So it wasn't a great security violation. So what an event basically is, and it's best described by this sidebar look, is that what an event is like a timed presentation of certain material. And so you set up these things, they're called event groups, but you can see in this case we've used them as days, but they don't have to be days. They could be completely arbitrary, but they do come with a kind of time. So that's how they're organized. And the idea in this case is what we're doing is that this course here is taken from a template that we have for teaching Introduction to Software Engineering, we call it, and we teach it to our new fellows that are coming in from Schmidt fellowships and stuff like that. And we teach them, on the first day we teach them object-oriented and functional programming. On the second day we teach them, using Git basically. On the third day we teach them testing and CI. On the fourth day we teach them packages and Docker. And on the fifth day it is HPC and SnakeMake, although I think SnakeMake has been binned in more recent iterations for like machine learning. I don't know why we ever had SnakeMake. I argued for SnakeMake to be replaced with documentation, like a whole half day on building documentation, but sadly machine learning is cooler, at least according to the majority. And so the idea is that if you're a student and I've enrolled in this course and I've got this course selected, I can select any one of the courses that I'm enrolled on. Most people are only enrolled in a few, but I've honestly enrolled in a lot because I've been teaching them. And you can see, you go here. Likewise, these things automatically in the sidebar have built these next arrays. So I'm going through the entire event here. So you can see the different colors I was talking about here. Is that because the blue one is the next item in the event, the purple one, is just something else that depends on this. So you can keep. So now we've moved on to to the end of that day. We've gone through all the way through that. So it's really you see the site as well is extraordinarily responsive. Due to its tech stack. So what else can a student do? Well, one of the cool things a student can do is they can give us feedback. So they can make a comment on that. Now this is now available to everyone else on the same event, and it will be embedded at that location for everyone else on the same event. So if you see a typo, then you can leave a comment saying this line's incorrect, or if you don't understand something, you can ask a question. Anyone, including other students, but instructors in particular, because instructors get a special list on the event of all the unresolved comment threads. Anyone else can say, your solution is this. They can reply. They can be marked as resolved, and then it'll disappear from that special list, and it appears a bit differently. You can see it appears differently in there. And so that's one of the things that's really cool. These, of course, can be deleted. by only the thread owner or by admin. And so and this is extraordinarily effective, we find when we teach, we get loads of comments, of people, like, we get mistakes occasionally. One of the things that I was saying about at the start is what I wish the motivation had said was that we get complete control of the entire ecosystem. We're able to iterate so extraordinarily fast, like times the typos have been reported or stuff doesn't work, and it's approximately 6 or 7 minutes to deploy the site. So if I edit the markdown, push a change, hit deploy, then 10 minutes later, and it's completely seamless because we've got multiple, we host multiple versions of it, so it's a rolling restart. So one container comes down, gets redeployed, and when that's healthy, the second container comes down and gets redeployed, and so there's zero downtime on a redeploy as well. Like literally zero downtime. The only time we have downtime is if there's an error with our cloud hosting provider, or if there's a bug that crashes the server for some reason. So, can't really excuse that. So that's another thing students can do. Is there any problems on here? Yeah, problems. So one thing students can do as well is they can do the problems. They can paste in the solution, rate a difficulty, provide feedback, and that will then mark that as complete. If you then go to your sidebar, I don't know what page I'm on here, state and side effects, then perhaps it does not do anything unless I refresh. I think that one of the issues here is I'm enrolled as an instructor, and so actually what I'm seeing is how many students have completed this rather than how many of my problems I've completed. But that's the idea. Sorry if the size is a bit small, but the idea here is that these trackers here are the problems on the page. But from an instructor point of view, it's the students that have completed everything on that page. So that's why I'm getting probably a little bit mixed UI here. But the idea is that, if you go to this page here, you should see that problem complete somewhere. So that's what students can do. Yeah, so your problem's not complete because, again, like I said, I'm logged in as an instructor, unfortunately, so I can't really show off that. Did I miss anything that I said in the slides that students could do? Oops, that's the wrong PowerPoint. Apologies. Okay, so enrollment in courses is very easy. Yeah, so I've just stopped the slideshow now. That's unfortunate. Go back to one of the things that's really so enrolling in a course is extraordinarily simple, but it's going to be even simpler in Gutenberg 2.0, which I'll get to at the end. But it's coming probably in 2 months or so. But you just click on the thing and type in your key, or if you don't have a key, you can hit this button, which will allow someone to change your status manually. So if you were typing that RSECon25 key in there and hit enroll, it automatically enroll. Likewise, if you go to one of the events, there's an enroll button as well, which opens up the same interface. It's this exact same modal that pops up. What the new system is going to be, is spoilers, is that enrollment keys are going to be unique. So you can just type in the enrollment key and it'll put you on the event, so you don't have to find the event. But obviously the events are not that hard to find, because if I want to find the Schmidt engineering ones, I just type Schmidt and I get the results for that, including this one, which is because it's a copy of one of them. It doesn't just search the title field; it searches also the description. They can browse the whole material as well. If you're not on an event, it doesn't mean you can't just find out how to deploy to AWS. Like if you want to do that, you can do that. And again, like we're going to get to Gutenberg 2.0, that kind of use of the site, not on an event, has been a priority for us in the last few months. I say priority for us, no one works on this except me. A priority for me on the last few months is to make the site much more functional for someone who's not on a timed event. And then and if you want to really see this great button here that I had to, sadly used to be the primary way when I started of viewing the material, was via this full diagram, and unfortunately I caved to WCAG compliance and got rid of it, and so you can only get to it through here. But all those depends on array means that this tree of material is being built automatically in the backside, so you can see all these lines are stuff that links together. All these boxes, this is a course, these are sections, this is a theme, and you can see how stuff interconnects. And so anyone can come to this page and they can click on any one of these things and it'll take them to the corresponding page. And again, I'd emphasize that the technology we're using here, this is the real website. This is not a locally hosted version. It's just lightning quick, absolutely instant feedback on anything there, which is just fantastic to see, because so much of hobbyist stuff that we build ends up compromising in terms of performance. So that's what a student can get up to, which isn't a lot, but but I do Shift F5. There we go. So it isn't a lot, but it's all right. And there we go. That's the elk thing automatically generated. You can do similarly if you mouse over. If you go to the same page but on an actual course or theme, it gives you a subset of that diagram, like not the full diagram, but just the stuff contained within that theme. So they can read the material, enroll and unenroll. They can view the course schedule, all this stuff as well. All these stuff it can be typed in by, this is just one rendered markdown. This is, so again, you could have complete arbitrary content here. So yeah, solve challenges. That's fine. Sorry, the backup stuff. I'll skip that. So for course organizers, I'm not really sure how interesting this is, but I'll do it on the staging website instead. So this is part of our CI job, is to deploy to a staging website, and so you can create courses, right, in like one click, effectively. So that's that new course there that's just been created. It's that one there. Yeah. And yeah, go to it, type in all the details you want. These things here are the individual groups, which is how you add material. If you want to add material to this, you can search for, like, this is how easy it is. You can see you want to do all the procedural programming for C++, then oops, that was a bit dodgy there. That's you done. No, like, that's how quickly it is. If you want to organize a course, then that's how quick it is to add that stuff. It's drag to reorder, but currently there's a bug that's really annoying that it doesn't look like it's dragging to reorder. It looks like you're highlighting text, which, quite frustratingly, is I reused this UI for the Gutenberg 2.0 courses thing, which we'll get to at the end, and it works flawlessly, even though all I did was reuse the UI. I didn't do the same approach. I literally imported it and reused it, and it works flawlessly. So that is maddening, but I'm sure that means there's an easy fix out there. And so that's how you make a course. You could then hand out the enrollment key. You can change, all these things can be changed by time. Admins, obviously can delete a course as well. I don't want that course anymore. You have to wait through the "Are you sure?" timeout. Oh, error, delete event. Okay, great. Anyway, what else did I? Yeah, so you can view, if we go back to the, not to the report. If we go back to here and I go to one of the events that we're running currently, or maybe one of the, let's go back to one of the older Schmidt ones, because they generally have quite a lot of users on them. So if you're an instructor, which I'm going to assume I am, then so yeah, this is what I was saying about comments. This is unresolved comment threads, and you can look at the whole thread there. You can click on this to get taken to the embedded material, and this is the table of student progress as well. So you can see this student here has done everything, and and that so as a student, but a lot of students haven't done a lot, but that's that's just life. So you can see all the problems. When you click on one of these, you get their solution, and you get feedback and you get difficulty assessments. There's ways to get average. I just clicked on a random one there, but ways to get sort of. Most people generally leave the slider in the middle, which is why they all say 5. These are in tooltips too, so so everyone say this person thinks they're all average difficulty. But that's to be expected. I think getting feedback from people is an absolute, in anything, is an absolute chore. Well, this person thinks this one's quite easy. There you go. So you can get all that. This is just a, right. Create events, monitor student progress, and then so host the website yourself. Should be so easy. We host it on fly.io, and so if you want to see how that's done, you can go and check out our deploy, and this is how we deploy it to Fly. Look how easy that is. I do tons of AWS work, like tons. Like I like 25% or something of my week is messing with AWS, and it makes me miss. This is how easy it is. The Fly configuration as well is just in a fly.toml file somewhere. There, yeah. And that's how easy it is. We have other ways of deploying. Southampton has their own deployment, and I know they use this way. There's a Docker Compose file, so you can see the services that. Sorry. So the Docker Compose file. So we're running Nginx for the reverse proxy. the database is Postgres. The next image is what is defined in here, and then we're using quadrant, which is the first search. Now, unfortunately, search is sometimes broken at the moment. I don't really understand why, so that's really annoying. But you can do this. Okay, it's working. So you can do like testing, and we've got a semantic search, and so what that's doing is it's doing like a vector embedding of your search term versus the material to find the pages that are most semantically similar. Not because it's useful, but because it's cool. Like why have a normal search when you can have a search for meaning? So that's really fun. But if you want to see how it's hosted on Fly, do that. There's a Docker, like I said, Docker Compose, which has all those things, including the quadrant, which is just there for the search, but which you might not want to run because it's powered by OpenAI. So you have to provide OpenAI API keys to do it. But it's cost us probably a total of like the entire time we've been hosting Gutenberg. It's cost us a total of like $10. And most of that's from deploying because the entire material has to be passed. Like the entire the material gets passed to OpenAI as part of the deployment. So the actual searches cost like such a minuscule amount of money. So now I did run Docker Compose a build prior to this in the hopes that I could just do it something like this and it would just work and I could show you how easy it is. No, so like I said, I cheated. I've ran build prior to this, but I didn't even look at the output. And there we go. It's up now. And you can see the cron job that's for downloading the material has started. It downloaded new material at now, and it will download new material at midnight tonight. And this material has changed just means that the material is different from what it was, and that's why it's now populating. So if this had said material has not changed instead, then it wouldn't populate the quadrant database to save you some money, because it would if you did this every day, it would be very expensive. And so it's writing the JSON into the database. That's fine. That's all it's saying there. But it is up and running now. If I was to go to localhost 80, which is the Nginx server, then you should see. Oops, not 8050. That's that Docker Compose version running. So simple to do. Now it is empty because there's an empty database that's been created as part of that. So there's nothing here. I am signed in because I'm cheating and using GitHub IDs, but you would set in your secrets. I'm using real GitHub IDs, but you would set in your secrets for this. You would set how your tenant ID and your application ID for your GitHub app to use GitHub to sign into that. So there's that. If we take that and that's the production build. Like that's how easy it is to do the production deployment. If we'd stop it and hopefully find in my embarrassing history. Oops. If we do the other way to do it locally, you do need a database. Do I have the command? I may not have the command history saved. I don't really want to. If I don't have it saved, I don't really want to type it out. But you would just start a database. Yeah, here we go. So start a database, a Docker database in that single command run, and then you can start the app, but the database will be empty right now. So we're going to quickly apply the schema changes. So it's a brand new Docker database. This is like a Postgres database. This is started from scratch. So we apply the database migration. So we built our tables, and then we then lose our place. We then seed the database with that, and then we can do like start the server, and this will launch on localhost 3000 in development mode. So there you go. This is now the development version of it working, and that's how easy that is to do. And this will have data in it because I ran that database seed command, so it loads our test database into it. So that's all I want to say about that. So make make events. You can make them manually, or you can copy an event. You can see student progress. To configure it is very simple. There's a template YAML. It's like the stuff the boring stuff. Where do you want to get material from? And I emphasize that you can grab as many material repos as you want. You can have 10 different ones if you want. We only ever use one because we've got full control over it. But if you didn't like the Universe HPC repo, you could fork it and mess it up. Or you could take it and you can say there's an excludes column. So you could say, I want to take everything except I don't like your high performance computing section because it's naff. But we've got our own HPC section, and so we want to use that from repo B. So you can have as many repos as you want, and you define them just with name and the GitHub the URL. So it doesn't have to be GitHub. There's the .git URL, so Bitbucket, GitLab, whatever. Don't care. So all that, and then there's mvars, like mainly for database stuff, secrets. So your next auth thing, your salt for your next auth secrets, and for your login systems, all that stuff needs to be in there, as well as the analytics. Semantic search, I mentioned that. This is out of date now. This is more like up to something like that. And these have all grown comparatively. Because again, this is even just in the 3 months since, or 4 months since I last talked about this. This is up to date though, and we've had 25,000 users in almost 2 years, from all across the world. And the criticism here is that basically only the people that are coming from the UK, US, and Singapore have had events, because that's the places we run events. Everyone else has been coming to just read the material, which we're no better than any other site. You may as well go to Carpentries, you may as well go to any other of the thousands of other sites that have this kind of thing on them. But we're going to reuse a word, courses, that I used earlier, but this time it has a different meaning, because we couldn't come up with a good, I couldn't come up with a good name that wasn't courses. Courses are basically an event, but they're for you. They're just for you. And instead of an admin setting up an event, you choose a pre-existing set of material from our library. And let me quickly, can I move this over here so I can change all branches and build and stuff like that while while this is going on. So right, so you choose, and a course is a bundle of material that is related, and it has a path, which is the same as events. Events are a bundle of material that have an order to them, but the courses are more you can group stuff. Like courses have the same structure where you can make, within a course you can have part A, part B if you want, whatever, and whichever delineation you want between them you can have. But they don't no longer have this time thing. They no longer have this cohort thing where people that are doing the event together have interactivity with each other in the form of comments. That's done away with. And they can still leave feedback, but it can only be seen by site admins. So we can still fix issues that they find. But part of this is the UK government's Protect the Children. I've forgotten the name of it. Protect the Children from Viewing Internet Naughtiness Act. It means that if we have user-to-user conversation, then we're in a serious moderation trouble. Now, I believe we're I think we're exempt as a university, luckily, but at no point in getting stuck in that argument. So you can sign up to course, and it looks to you very similar to what that event looks like, where you've got a list of courses you're enrolled on. We've got fantastic front-end mock-ups that I can't show you because it's not been implemented yet, of what that looks like to the user. When they're on a course, you've got progress tracking, you've finished 7 out of 10 sections in this course. If you do the next 3, here we've got fantastic linking. The same way we've used depends on arrays to link sections together, we can link courses together, and it can say, if you've done introduction to HPC, why not try intermediate HPC? If you've done cloud computing basics, why not try this AWS course, or why not try this functional programming course because it's related to this other course that you've done. And they can be any size, but we're going to try and make them, we're going to basically use our events as templates for courses. Any event that we've ran, we're going to take that collection of material and turn it into a course. And then we're going to take every, and this is where the word course becomes double meaning. Remember I talked about theme course section. We're going to take every one of those courses and turn them into a course too. But they're now called material courses so that's where the confusion ends. I hopefully for the last second I can show you what courses look like but I'll have to unfortunately have to rebuild that database that I just built because it'll have all the wrong. So this is software engineering on the clock. Can I delete these databases in time before I run out of time? So let's start a database. Let's build the migrations and then let's seed it. And then let's open the dev console. I failed. That's unfortunate. This worked so many times earlier, and then unfortunately does not work this time. Does it have the right add courses language field? Oh well, that's very unfortunate actually, because this is really cool. Let's try this again. All right, let's try this again. Let's delete all of these. Don't need any of this. This is my last try, and then I'll give up and just tell you that it is good. Trust me. The courses are stored. Well, they're stored. The de facto, the sort of ground truth is stored in the. Oh, that's really annoying. Okay. Oh well. So I can't show you that. Do I have? Let me just take this. Images. So the ground sort of truth is stored in the database, but there's also you can also export and import from JSON. And so the idea is that in the Universe HPC repo, we'll put courses in as JSON, and you can just hit sync, and it will import those into your database. But the ground truth, it will be the database. So I'm just trying to see if I can get an image that would be the. So courses. Sorry. Courses look like this. This is what they look like. This is the stuff that I put in the seed command. This is what it looks like. These are all placeholder. All the back end is done. There's still front end work. I'm still working on front end work, so I sadly didn't get it finished for this. But this is what, when you click on a course, what it looks like. Enroll, it's the same as, except there's no enrollment keys or anything like that. Anyone can do them. It's just anyone can click it, and that'll just add it to their profile page. It's the profile page that I haven't showed you. There's also add it to the front page in the form of like a courses carousel that you're on. This is how you create a course. It's the same interface except improved because these things work, and also it's all on one page. You don't have to click on like a subsequent page. This is what it looks like once you start adding stuff in. So and then you hit the sync button, and all the courses that I put in the JSON, if you hit that sync button appear, and so that that's what's happening now. Just sorry that unfortunately I had to check this morning, and I've just reran the same commands this morning, and it did not work. So apologies for that, but that's what I had to talk about. Sorry I overran as well. I meant to finish a little bit earlier.
I guess we have time for maybe a question or two, if there are any.
I have one question. Hey, my name is Jaro Kamphuis.
Hi.
From the Netherlands Design Center. This is amazing. Thank you for working on this. We've tried ourselves a bit in the past to set up such a thing. I think one thing that we think is very important is being able to host slides, version controlled slides. And I saw an issue already in Gutenberg that there are some plans maybe to add it with Reveal.js. I was wondering whether these plans are
yes, so
coming closer.
It's actually currently already possible to do, but it's not very clean. So what you can do is you can embed slides on Gutenberg, and all you need to do then is you just need to do like the mark that you can embed them already, but I'm not happy with the fact it uses an iframe. But so instead, what that work to do to resolve that issue is to add a custom directive to Markdown that can only be used in limited capacity to do slides. The same way, so currently you can already embed like YouTube videos, and we use that in places for a lecture on the subject matter as well. And I think we would use the same thing. What the idea would be, in my opinion, and I don't know if you agree, that if you were to come to like say a course of this place here, this level of material, you could have slides on this embedded at this point. And we agree that this, but we already have in the Universe HPC repo, there is slides as Markdown, and we've been, is it Slidio? I don't remember what we're doing, but we did have I did have a demo branch set up where we had Slidio stuff being rendered from the Markdown repo, and then embedded in Gutenberg. So I think there is a relatively clean path to that. in the sense that what we would do, and one of the issues always is with this kind of thing, or with any kind of software development, when you're on a sort of a university, you don't have like a investment capital, is that how do we store the stuff? Because obviously we can build the slides and then we can, in a GitHub job, and we can push them somewhere in that job, and then we can maybe do something like diff specific like this is the plan, is we diff specific markdown files and build them that way. It would be nice if we could instead take the rendering of those slides into Gutenberg, but that's obviously a much larger job, because we already are rendering markdown. So you think, oh, maybe it's not going to be that hard, and I haven't tried it, but I suspect the answer is yes, it is very hard. But we agree with you that it'd be nice to get slides embedded, but like I said, currently the sort of working branch we have of that is to build the slide deck elsewhere, and then just put that into Gutenberg as an embedded iframe, but with some protections around that, so people can't just put arbitrary iframes in.
So we, as I said, we worked a bit on that. I share a link to our research software support platform. It's just a static GitHub page, but we do have Markdown rendering and Reveal.js for Markdown. It's dirty, and we want a better solution, but we might be able to contribute to Gutenberg. But maybe it's nice to discuss it at some point.
Yeah, that's nice.
For us, it would really be the deal breaker, and then we would sort of right away go for Gutenberg, I think, to also start using it.
Cool. Yeah, I'd be happy to help out with that.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing this. It's amazing. Thanks for all the work. It's great.
Yes, thank you very much for presenting. I was especially excited about the last part.
I know. I'm sorry I didn't get to show it. I'm sorry I didn't get to show it, but what I'll say very quickly is that I'm planning for what I'm calling it version 2 of Gutenberg. And we're currently it's a bit arbitrary, but we're currently on version like 1.3, I think it is. And the idea is version 2 of Gutenberg. We're going to have a whole new front page. So this whole front page is going to be events are going to be basically gone. Because the problem with this is that if you're not doing HT26 fundamental software engineering, then it doesn't mean anything to you. So instead, that's why we want to have single key enroll. So there'll be like a plus arrow, like enroll an event, and typing in the key is your one and done, and then your events will appear on this page. Not everyone else's events, just only your ones. And so the workflow, instead of go to this page, find your event and enroll in it, and then you've got access to it either by clicking this, or by clicking it from your select event button from up here. Instead of that being the standard work, it'll be the front page will be much more useful to everyone. So we'll be able to advertise courses on the front page, and be able to say like, hey, maybe we could have something like a rotating carousel of like courses. Maybe we could just have a few ones that we've handpicked to present on the page, and then you can follow that to the full list of them. You can search the full list of them. The full list of them as well. We're trying to set up the database with as much sort of metadata in there as possible, so that stuff can be very filterable on that page. Like if you would go to the /courses page and you'd click Python, language Python, you'd click like HPC as the theme or whatever, and then these courses, that list of available courses would shrink down until you'd refine that you could maybe select begin like difficulty length, because we're putting in like how long these things should be to complete as well in there. So you could say I want short courses or whatever, and so filter them down. And likewise on this page you'll have a combined view. You have to click something, I guess. You have a combined view of like the events you're on plus courses you're running. And progress, like some of the mock-ups I had for the the courses you're running, which are in the GitHub issue, I think they are actually. So this stuff is there's a can you can this stuff's probably open, that you can see the progress towards Gutenberg 2.0 in this Kanban board here. So if you want to see how that's going, but I suspect I'll post in. I'll see if I can post to the training channel on RSE when it's finished. But the basic gist is that, do I have a mock-up in here? Yeah, so this is what the new front page looks like. Only stuff you're enrolled on, plus the courses that you're enrolled on, button to start a new course, which will take, but maybe we'll advertise as well, like, popular courses, stuff like that. We can, and then we'll be able to, if what Veronica will potentially be interested in going on is that this very nebulous idea of learning outcomes is in what can you expect to achieve from a course, and to sort of codify that, and that can come, like, we're putting in the framework now, so hopefully the actual hard work can be done later, which is like deciding what sort of things lead to what sort of things, and what sort of skills we can codify as, like, I am skilled at this thing, this programming technique, this language, this framework, this mechanism, and because I'm skilled at that, I've got, like, similar to learning platforms, like if you go to AWS training stuff, we're not saying give out badges and stuff like that, but that idea, even if it's internal only, of you gaining something and being able to represent that on our website. Like, you've got something out of this course, which is an understanding of an understanding of Git, and you can now, anything that needs an understanding of Git is now open to you. That could be like the next step after this groundwork is put in of just having these in general.
Amazing. I think we're totally out of time, but once again, thank you very much for presenting, and we are looking forward to Gutenberg 2.0.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope it was helpful.